You're so I just need to leave Whitney out of the whole
Yeah, you leave my
conversation.
wife out of that. She'll disagree with me.
No,
She'll tell you how sweet I am. Hey everybody,
I'm Pam.
I'm Michael.
How are you doing today?
I am doing well. We made it through the storms, and all is good in Decatur and our little neck of the woods.
So on TV, I was watching the news, and they talked about. I mean, evidently Jacksboro got hit pretty bad
Pretty bad.
and everything, and I was laughing because I was not laughing because Jacksboro got hit, but they were showing pictures of the school and how the tornado hit the school and
Hmm.
everything. And my granddaughter was with me. And she said, "Well, Grandma, do those kids not have to go to school now?" I said, "I'm sure they'll work something out." So,
Yeah, they'll have temporary
it didn't
schooling.
affect you whatsoever. I had so many people calling and texting me wanting to know, where I was and everything because some of those parents were picking their kids up at
Right,
school
right. In
when that
Jacksboro,
hit.
school had just let out, and the principal walked back outside and told everybody to come in. And it was within just a few minutes of that it hit.
Well, I noticed that they talked about it was going north of Decatur, so you didn't hit any of that.
I saw some cloud movement over Decatur, and I was standing outside the front door of my office, and the rain. It was hailing, and the rain started coming down sideways, and I knew that it was probably time to get my little butt back inside the office and hunker down a little bit. But it didn't really affect me much, other than that.
It was so when they talked about it hitting Bowie, we're rehabbing a house in Bowie, and I was like, "Oh Lord, please." And so Sam was yesterday took kitchen cabinets, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna have the guts and drive up there."
Hmm.
And he goes, "Well, I can just tell you," and I'm like, "No, because if it has, I have to see it because I'm a control freak.
Yeah,
I have
no,
to
not
see it.
you.
I have to see it for myself." So as we're approaching down the street, I'm sitting there going, "Come on, just let the whole house
Just
still be there, please,
just in
please,
a small
please."
panic
Yes.
driving down.
And there it is, all nice and still its beautiful self. And I'm like, yes,
Who sold you that house?
you did.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, you did.
A little, you know.
It's taken us a while to get it done, about a year or so, but it's because I kept borrowing money against it.
That was a little shameless plug, wasn't it?
Yeah. So,
Um,
but we thought that we wanted to rehab in Bowie. We just want rentals in Bowie.
I've got some rent. I got a rental in Wichita Falls. It's
No,
rent ready, perfect, ready to go.
nope. I have,
Okay.
you know what? Pass me the information and I will share it with some people up there
Okay.
and everything. But you know what I did realize? So I have a property in Boyd. And the other day you said, I have a buyer's list. Well, I've had this property for a while and I need to share it with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's land. It's,
I'm pretty
it's
sure I've got,
it's four
especially
acres
Boyd.
in the
Oh,
city.
oh my gosh, yeah.
In the city. And I'm like, I need to share this with you so we can get this sucker sold and
And
everything.
anybody watching this, don't contact her. Contact me.
Contact either one of us.
Me first.
Yeah.
No, but
So
yeah, I can probably do something with that pretty quickly.
okay. How's business going?
Business is good. We've got a really good deal closing hopefully this week. We finally assigned our last Birmingham property. So all of our out of state properties are assigned and at title and ready to close. Oh, what a relief. Yeah, that's one of those. This one is the longest standing deal I've ever had on my books.
And you sold it to a guy that lives in Texas.
Well, that was the other one from the same seller.
Oh, okay.
I sold that one to a guy that is moving to Birmingham, and this one I was trying to, but sold this one to a guy in Birmingham. So it's working out great. This one I've had on the books since like summer of last year.
That's the thing people don't realize sometimes when you're getting into this business and you've made promises, to these sellers,
Hmm.
and but the good thing about it is the sellers are sticking with you.
And that's because of the rapport that I build and the way that I speak with them and work with them. my philosophy or my thought process is to make friends with these people. I want, especially the local ones. I want them when they get to their new house or when they're doing, when they have their backyard barbecues. I want them to think of me and think of inviting me. I want to be that close to them. I want to build that kind of relationship that we're going to do business on, ongoing.
In this business, it's so important, to do relationship, to build a relationship business. And people don't realize, when we talk about investors, it is so very much still a relationship
I was about to
business.
say it is a relationship business.
And a lot of people think, oh, we're just out there, I don't like to use the word used car salesman, but
Yeah, no,
we're just out there.
I've been
We're out there
accused,
to take advantage of people. And that is so untrue.
and I've heard it. I'll post something on Facebook, and somebody will post, "Oh God, here's another flipper," and blah blah blah. And my first thought is, dude, if you knew anything about what I do or how I deal with people, you wouldn't even that wouldn't even cross your mind.
Well, people don't realize. I mean, just like anything else. I mean,
There are
when
some bad apples.
there's some bad apples, but there's bad apples. When I was doing what I call regular retail real
Yep.
estate, and everything, and people don't really understand the problems that a lot of people have out there, and they don't know what to do. They don't know
Right.
where to take
Well,
it.
what's going to wind up happening is these bad apples are going to create a scenario in real estate investing to where there are going to be regulations on it. Right now, there are really no regulations on investing in wholesaling or any of that. But these people that are taking advantage
Yes.
and are doing people dirty are messing the business up badly, and are going to wind up creating an atmosphere where the government is going to come in and regulate the whole shooting match.
Yes.
And it's I don't really care because I do things the right way. As every chance I do things the right way. I mean, point blank. So I'm not too worried about the regulations, and it's not happening yet. But there are talks
Right.
on it.
Right. I
Um,
know what you're talking about. Talking about investors having to get a license, and
hmm
so in Oklahoma City, I know that if you're just selling, doesn't have to be the word investors, but you have to get a type of license. Well, we have a franchise in Oklahoma City, so we were talking to Tao about it, and she said that people are mistaking what kind of license it is. It's
hmm
not that you have to go get a real estate license. That's not it at all. It is just a license to giving you the right to sell, so that when you when someone does do something wrong, it actually makes it easier on the suing process.
And
Is what
see
I've
that
been
one I
told.
don't know that I agree with, because if I own property, I should not have to go to the government and say I want to sell my property and have their permission. That part I don't agree with. If I am going to be buying or flipping or wholesaling multiple properties as a business, I can see there being some regulation to some degree,
But not fully.
but not fully regulated by the guy. I don't think the government has the and this is just my opinion.
Well,
I
I
want
can,
to preface that first.
yeah. Well, I can understand it because I hold a broker's license.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't feel like the government should be in my business. But
Well,
on that same note, there are people out there doing people wrong that the government should be controlling people getting screwed.
yeah. Well, what I was going to bring
So,
bring up is I own a broker's license, and so I have rental properties. I live on a farm, and we have acreage that
mhm.
my parents accrued during the years and everything, and so even with me having my broker's license, I have to be very careful because I'm like, and I tell people this: I am a person.
Mhm.
I have the right to sell my own personal property without going through my real estate
Yeah,
license.
absolutely.
That, and I disclose, and sometimes I think, why
Well,
do I
yeah,
have
you
to
have
have?
to.
But why should I? I mean,
You shouldn't in all
I
reality.
shouldn't have to, and but at the same time, to protect myself and to keep myself from being sued, I do disclose even when I'm selling my own personal property.
Mm-hmm.
And it can get very frustrating because I'm thinking, I should have the right to a personal life,
Yeah, absolutely.
personal sales and
and
everything.
and it gets sticky. It's a slippery slope, and it's like with all the other stuff going on right now. You how do you make it just for one thing or one person or one type of this or one type of that, and not make it all inclusive? And it's a slippery slope, and I don't even want to get into all of that mess.
Well,
But
and I think it goes back to what we started out to begin with. It's all about the relationship.
absolutely.
It is 100% relationship built in everything. And talking I have a student, Mark. He is rocking the business right now.
Awesome.
He is doing what most people do not like to do. He is actually door knocking.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. Very effective, but I'm not a fan.
But because of him door knocking, between him and two of my other contractors, I mean, all of a sudden, all this business is coming, or the potential of doing, getting these properties and helping these different people out
Hmm.
with their problem situation. So he called me the other day. First of all, we have the property in Arlington under contract, and it is a reverse mortgage type
Okay.
deal. Mom passed away. The kids don't want the property because there's a lot of fixing and updating that needs to be done to it. Mark got that property. I went and looked at it with him. It is. We've made an agreement with the people, and so now we're trying to get all the affidavit of airships. And I think I talked about it last couple of weeks, but it is finally done. It is a
Awesome.
done deal, and to get it closed. And so, in the meantime, the notes have come up on a couple of my rental properties,
Hmm.
and so the guy that's holding the lien on those and everything, I asked him, I said, I go, Richard, I go, how about if we do this? I threw something up at him, and we're going to get into about the gap funding
Hmm.
because that's what our subject's supposed to be
Yeah.
about today is gap funding. So I said, Richard, I go, how about if and this is what's so good about talking about the relationships. So I owe him a little under $60,000 to pay off this lien. And I said, Richard, I go, how about if I pay this lien off and then you fund at the rates and everything that we were talking about on the Arlington property?
Hmm.
Because he likes to do long term. He doesn't, he's not into fix and flip and all
Yeah, you
that.
might have to hit me up with this Richard
he
dude.
he you want to talk about relationship
Yeah,
building. It's about relationship building with him.
I've got a mobile home park I'm needing some
we'll
funding for.
we'll, we'll
Yeah.
talk about that. So anyway, he said, well, he said, well, Pam, he goes, well, you don't really need to send me all that money to pay the loan off. He said, he said, on paper we can put it as paying it off, and then when we fund the new, so I'm like, oh, he's going to fund the deal because our conversation.
Yeah.
He said, when I fund the new deal, I'll just send you the rest of the money that you need. And I'm like, yes.
Nice.
I'm like, so I'm going, so can we up the money a little
Yeah.
bit so that I'm not having to use my money either for the rehab on this and everything? And he goes, so I just want to make clear that we are keeping it long term. And I said, yes, we're keeping it long term. That's what I want to do with that. And he is all about it and excited for it. But again, just being able to have that relationship and talking about gap money. So, what is gap money? Gap money refers to, and it's basically for those that are rehabbing.
Well, there's
There are.
two different definitions, and it depends on what side of real estate you're on.
Mm-hmm.
If you're if you're a retail buyer, gap lending is more like what we call hard money.
Mm-hmm.
It's a short-term loan to get you to your long-term loan. But in in our industry, in real estate, as an investor, that's just called hard money, and we take that to do our purchase and our flip.
So let's back up a second. Let's use a scenario here about the retail side of it. With it, do you have an example of it?
Well, let's say I'm buying a house, and I've got a 6 month or a 4 month. I've got a window of 4 months that it's going to take to get my traditional lending. For whatever reason, I can get what's called a gap loan on the traditional side. I can get what's called a gap loan that will carry me, that will go ahead and buy the property, lock it down, purchase it, change title, do all of that, pay the seller. Now I own the property, and I've got this gap loan that's going to last until I can get my traditional funding. That's that's my understanding with everything I've studied, and I may be wrong. I'm not the best with funding.
That is one type of gap
And then
funding.
the other with our industry is more like the down payment kind of thing.
Well, you can take that even, to like the rehabbing side of it.
Mhm.
So for me right now, we are looking at rehabbing 5 houses.
Mm.
And so, whenever you're rehabbing a house, you if you don't have your own money, you go get what they call the hard money loan.
Right.
Okay. Well, with the hard money loan, that's fine and dandy, but they usually want you to have what they call skin in the game.
Mhm.
They want you to have something. So,
And the newer you are, the harder
Mhm.
it is to get around that.
Yes. So we're going to use an example here. If I'm rehabbing 5 houses at $200,000 each, and the loan to value, on that is, at 75 or 80%, and I'm just using a round number here. Well, that's me having to bring $30,000 to the table.
Mhm.
And that does not include my rehab money.
Right.
Okay. So people are, hard money lenders, they want you to have a little bit of skin in the game because they will make sure that you're doing, what you're up to. So so if it takes me $40,000 to rehab and I have to come up with 25 or $30,000, to have, to pay that other when I close on it, that's $70,000. Well, if you have 5 projects going on at one time,
Yeah.
what's 70 times 5?
7 times 5 is 35, so 350, or is that right? 350,000.
I think so. Here, I got them.
I'm pretty sure that's right.
Here, I got
I'm
it.
pretty positive.
I just do it. So
And one thing, guys, there's a lot of y'all out there that do this.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
375,000.
375. If I say something, she knows a lot more about this than I do, but if I say something and she doesn't correct me, y'all feel free to comment. Y'all,
Please do.
if y'all know of any other ways, any other strategies, lending, anything to do with hard money or gap funding, get in the comments. Let us know, kind of what you do, how you do it, any suggestions, tips. That's what this is about, is information.
But back to what I was, saying, that's $375,000 that somehow I'm going to have to come up, out of pocket and everything. So what, and when you called me about the mobile home park and everything, a light bulb came off in my head. Okay. So I'm like, okay, I actually need to go out and find money and
Mhm.
structure the money. So another thing about money or gap funding is, so I have a friend. So we have a girls
Mhm.
meeting, and it's tomorrow night. It's our girls meeting. And so, my friends, like I said, they've been talking about, how they could help and, grow their Social Security and
Right.
everything. So I told them that I could actually borrow their money, and it's a short amount of time.
Right.
So even if it's $30,000, okay. So if I borrow your $30,000 for 4 months, because that's what we're known to get our rehabs, from the time we purchase to the end. It's around an average of 4 months.
Mhm.
We have done them in shorter than that, but 4 months is the average.
Yeah.
So, if I can take your $40,000 at, even if it's 10%, that's still better than having to pay, points and everything.
Mhm.
So if whatever it is, whatever agreement we come to. And so I'm like, okay, if I borrow 40,000 and we can agree that I could have that 40,000 for 4 months for 3,000, I'll pay you
Mhm.
$3,000. Here's the thing. A lot of people think, well, that's not very much money. But if I do that 4 times a year,
Mhm.
I've just made you $12,000.
Yeah.
Where else are you gonna go make
10
$12,000,
10% on your money.
you know,
Yeah.
throughout the year on
There
$40,000?
aren't a lot of there are very few other investments that are 10 and 12% interest. Very
Yes,
few.
very and so when I presented this, eyes lit up,
Mhm.
okay? I'm like, "Wow." So, I even took it a step further. I went and approached a friend and talking about the Arlington, property. And I said, look, if I could borrow $150,000, even and even if it's at 10%, but I want it on a monthly deal. So, we were doing the math, and I think that comes out to being like it's not 5,000 a month. Anyway, for the 4 months, I think it's 1,500 a month, but for the 4 months, it came out to being somewheres around $6,000. Okay. Now you're sitting there going, $150,000 for, all I'm going to make is 6,000. I said, but if I can do that 3 times a year for you, 3 times
It's 18
five is
grand or
18, 15
3
to
times 6,
eighteen
yeah.
thousand dollars. Where can you go make
Yeah.
$18,000 on $150,000?
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, so it's all about educating.
Now with what you're talking about, that's more of private money, private lending, for your gaps, which is great, and that's obviously that's recommended because it's just an easier process and less expensive.
But even though they may be financing the 150, I still have to have that extra money to for the rehab project.
Right.
And so talking about getting into this, talking about that gap money, and I just want to put this out there for any of those that are thinking about doing gap money. This is where a lot of new people get themselves into trouble
And I have a question when you're
when they are doing gap money. And you have to be, and this is reason why it's so important to build that relationship, because when you're doing gap money, you become the second lien holder.
that's my
Yeah,
question.
you are the second lien holder. In
You're
that,
in second position,
you are in
so
second
you don't have a
position to
first
get.
position guarantee.
No, but a lot of people, they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm
Mhm.
excited to loan you put money, Pam,"
Yeah.
and they'll write me a check, and I'm like, "No, no, 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 no.
Let's
That's
explain the
no. It needs to be on paper.
mhm.
It needs to be like a
Like the
original loan
contract.
amount, a
Yeah.
contract that okay, you are in second lien, and that
Right.
is why it's so important to know who you're dealing with, and once the project's over with, the first person gets paid for, then you get paid for, and then the rehabber gets paid
So
for it.
short of finding your private money like you're talking about, if you're if the only way you know to do if you're new and the only way you know to do it is to go to these companies that lend, how do you get that gap funding when these lenders won't do anything in second position?
Right.
How would you go about if you can't find or haven't found the private money yet? How would you go about finding hard money for the gap part of it? Say you have the hard money for the purchase and the rehab, and they want the down payment out of your pocket, 30,000, 25,000, and you don't have that. Now, a lot of times, if you have enough money already in the bank, this hard money lender, if you bought right enough and low enough, they won't even charge you. They'll just look at your bank and know you have enough to cover everything, and they'll lend. But if you don't have that huge amount in your bank account, you need some type of gap funding to cover that down payment. And those companies, and 9 times out of 10, are not going to be okay with second position. So what do you do there?
That's where you go and you find people, you find the private money. You find, that's why it's so important to build those relationships. So let's take my guy Richard that only does long term. Okay. I went and approached him and he said, no, 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 no. And I said, but Richard, what if I can show? And I laid it out with him, and I said, and you are the second lien holder. I go, but because you do long term anyway with me, if it doesn't work out, then we can turn that property over where it's long term, and now you become the first lien holder.
Explain that a little more.
Okay, so let's take the Arlington property. Okay. And I'm just throwing numbers out there. Okay. Yeah. The Arlington property, let's say that we're purchasing it for 150,000. Okay. And I need 30,000 to rehab it. So I'm going to use Emerald Dolphins. Okay. As the first lien holder.
And you're looking at 180,000 loan.
I'm looking at, I need 180,000 to do this project.
Yeah.
So you have Emerald Dolphins in first position because they're going to put up the 150. Okay. Then I have Richard coming in second position, and he's going to put up the other 30,000. Okay. Now I'm not and he's agreed to that, but it's all documented on paper, and they understand rehab is completed. Okay. So we're at closing. Emerald Dolphins gets their first payoff. Then Richard gets his payoff. But instead of me paying him off, I want to turn that into a rental long term.
Turn around and refi.
Yeah. So now we're turning around and refinancing that.
I thought you meant as a guarantee, not as after you close and you follow through with the loan. How do you guarantee him? What kind of guarantee can you give him that if the crap hits the fan, that he will get compensated for it, because your first lien holder is going to take the property, and you just say, "Hey, I owe you." I mean, what do you?
He really doesn't. I mean, exactly. it is a risk, but that's the reason why it is all about that relationship. Now, what he can do as a second position is go file a lien in a judgment against that property.
Correct.
Okay. So if it ever does get sold,
he could also do it against your company, could he not?
Yes, he can. He can do it against the company. He can also do it against me personally.
Right. So there are guarantees for him.
Yes.
Okay.
So, but that's the reason why we talk about this relationship building and why it's so. On the rehab side of it, there's another thing is maybe it's not. So with one of my people, what I did is I made a separate note with them. They're not on the mortgage deed. It is a separate note where they can come and file a personal lien against me if I don't follow through with that.
Right.
So, and again, it's all about the relationship. It is people that have done this, people that have experience when doing this. But with our market today and people in need of help, you can't just sit there and not do anything.
And that was something I meant to mention earlier when we were talking about helping sellers. Just real quick, I want to point out how important your mindset is going into that. It's okay to go into it wanting to make some money, but you have to go into this industry, especially in the wholesaling and flipping part of it. You have to go into this industry with the mindset that you're there to help the seller before you're there to help yourself. You have got to put the seller first and then worry about your money. I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out because that is a big deal to me, and it's a big deal in the industry because it goes back to the regulations and all of that stuff, but not so much the funding part. So
Yeah, there's you know, that is one thing that's so interesting about this business is all the creativeness, as I call it, that you can do with it, but at the same time, you can get yourself into a lot of trouble if you don't know what you're doing.
you can. There's all kinds of different creative ways to build your financing. They even call it creative financing. There's all kinds of different ways to do it. And if you're not careful, you can put yourself in a bind really, really easily. So
And
you have to educate yourself on it.
and here's the other thing is if you're new and you don't know anybody, go contact an attorney.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's what attorneys are there for. It is a whole lot better to pay an attorney $500 to look over the paperwork and make suggestions
To save
than
you 5,000,
th-
10.
not just save 5,000 to save you
Yeah.
$40,000.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to look at that, you know, differently. And I think a lot of people they're like, well, I'm going to create this is to me I'm going to create this document and have you to sign it.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, it needs to be notarized. It needs, you know, to become a true,
Right.
you know, helpful document,
Legal. Yeah.
legal document,
Yeah.
and it needs to be looked at an attorney, not just from the person that's lending the money,
Hmm.
but even on my end of it as a rehabber, because this almost happened one time doing, the gap funding. Well, the second lien position liked my rehab job and they wanted to buy it, but they did not want to pay me what it was worth. And they're like, but I've given you this money, to rehab it,
Hook me up.
and I want to put that as,
Hmm.
a part of it. And I said, well, what we're doing is you're negotiating with me on the price, and this is the price that I want. It got very, very sticky. Thank goodness I had closed this and I had the documents drawn up through an attorney and closed it at, an attorney's office
Hmm.
and everything, which saved me because I could have ended up losing a lot of money on that deal had I not, done. Now, when I was first getting, did I have any idea what I was doing? No. I just knew to take it to an attorney
Right.
and, and pay him to look over the documents to make sure everything was, up to par.
Right.
So need to do that.
Absolutely. Attorneys will save your butt.
And not all attorneys know how to draw up documents.
That's true too.
So here's another question. How do you find an attorney?
Well, there's several different ways. You can look up real estate attorneys, but that's going to kind of be generic. I have a few I would be glad to share. Some of them, if you know good title offices, you can ask them. If you know other people in the industry, you can ask them. You can kind of interview them, so to speak, as well.
You know what I'm going to say?
No?
After you inviting Ryan Jackson and Matt Sanchez to my meeting without informing me the other day, just call Ryan Jackson.
Well, I know the one or two that Ryan's gonna tell you to use because I use them too. So
I'm not gonna let you live that down.
I know. I've got some friends that I invited to our meetup the other night, and they decided they were going to show up out of the blue, and it kind of put her on her heels for a second.
We didn't go through any of the slides, but you know what? It turned out to be a great meeting. I've gotten so many compliments from that meeting.
Everybody was firing off questions, and these two guys have so much knowledge that they were just firing off answers and suggestions, and It was pretty awesome. It was more like a round table.
It was a round table, and we need to have more round
I
table
agree. I think we need
discussions.
to do lunch and learns. I think we need to do. I love the idea. I'm actually trying to put together some type of lunch where we all just meet up, maybe 10, 15, 20 of us. We meet up at some restaurant once a month.
Guess what restaurant Decatur's back on?
That country kitchen place. Yeah.
I drove by yesterday and saw the sign hiring
Yep.
now hiring. I'm like, yes. What is it called? Home cooking.
Home cooking, I think. I'm
And
not sure.
that would be a great play if. I mean, they
Well,
did
I'm
a
talking
whole.
about guys from Fort Worth and Arlington and
Oh,
Dallas. So
okay.
we'd probably need to meet more in Fort Worth. But I'm talking like Ryan and Matt
Mhm.
and Alan Sheehan and those kinds of guys, and us all to meet at a restaurant and just talk about what we got going on, talk about some deals we've got, share our deals with each other. Really, just a little meetup, but a meetup of experienced folks that we can share. Hey, I had this happen. Hey, did you, stuff like that.
Talking about experience and everything. So every Thursday we have a little girls group that
Mm-hmm.
call, and so remember Wayne the appraiser.
Yeah.
Okay, so he called me the other day and he goes, he said, "You think I could be a part of your girls group?" I'm like, "You really want to be a part
That's
of our?"
actually crossed my mind.
He goes, I said, "You really want to be a part of our girls group?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "I was listening because I taped it and I shared the tape, the message with him." He said, "Yeah." He said, "Y'all really talk about a lot of good stuff." And he said, "I'd like to be in on it." And he said, "And I think I can help you even on the appraisal side and giving some great, ideas
And I tell
about
you
it."
what you can do to kind of make that happen without them being in the group. Just video them or make them live and share the videos and let people comment on them. That way,
I am so bad about that. I have got to do that more often, sharing the videos. I've even didn't share last week's video
oh,
on yes, when we
this
had our
one,
deal. I'm in trouble.
yeah, you
So,
are,
but that's why I need someone else to do it for me. If I would
or
just
hold you accountable,
do what?
or hold you accountable.
Accountable. Accountable?
Y'all notice she didn't even
Is
understand the word accountable, right?
is that a vocabulary word? Accountable is a vocabulary word? I keep my students accountable.
And see,
So
there you go.
so you tell me I need to be accountable.
And just for posting videos.
Oh, that's Caitlin's job. I gotta
We'll
teach.
see.
See, I need to teach her how to do that,
We'll see. There you go. At
and it's
least you
just
know.
I do. And she's like, "Well, when she comes up and tells me or asks me, well, how do I do this?" I'm gonna say, "Call Michael."
Oh, jeez. That's fine. I have no problem helping. I'm no guru by any means, but I get
You
it
you
done.
you know how I complimented you that you have an entry to your videos.
Yes.
So I was gonna go on Fiverr and have them to. Fiverr doesn't do that anymore.
Uh,
I'm like, oh,
Josh, I'm trying to get Josh back in our office full time, and it's proving to be difficult. But Josh Bridwell is who did ours, and he is really, really good with little video clips and stuff like
well,
that.
so since you're using Sam to rehab your mom's
Use
house,
Josh.
I
It's
can
up to Josh, but I'll be glad to get you in contact with him. I'll be glad to share the contact.
so talking about going back to talking about gap money.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So for a second, so Sam, who we use to
Mm-hmm.
rehab our projects and everything, we're up in Bowie, and I hear him talking to his wife, about how they have some money and they don't want to spend it because they want to use it as a down payment on a house they purchase. And I said, "Really?" I go, "You're worried about I said, "I can take that money for you and make you more money with it." And he said, and he got to looking at me and I said, "No, let's sit down and let's, write it all out." I said, "You've already written out all your, how much it's going to cost me to do this project." I said, "Why don't you just give me that money and then, I'll use that money to pay you and all the other contractors with it. And at the end, you'll get all your money back plus some."
Right.
So his wife, she goes, "I like that idea because it'll be in her bank account
Yeah.
where you can't get a hold of it."
Right.
So,
I actually have one under. Well, it's not under contract yet. I'm hoping to sign it probably this week. But I'm actually selling him a house. I found him one.
um,
Sam.
Where is it?
It's in North Fort Worth. It's in North Richmond Hills, I think.
Oh, okay. Does he know that?
Yeah, he knows.
When did you tell him?
Like over a week ago. I'm still trying to get it signed.
Because he
The,
didn't say anything to me last night. I saw him last night.
well, because it's not 100% yet. There's the seller has.
So do we need to call Sam and tell him that you have him in the house?
No, he knows.
Oh, okay.
He knows. I mean, he calls me
So I'm
every
not
day
gonna
or
be able
every
to
other
use
day.
that money for to
Well,
finish out
that's
my.
up to him. I don't know, but he's buying a house.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Because he needs a house.
As long as I can get the seller has. I made my offer and the seller came back because it's two brothers. They came back. The other brother has invited someone in to look and give an offer also. So we're waiting on their offer to see what my offer to see what it is compared to my offer and blah blah blah. So I'm hoping to get it, but I should be able to cover.
So you need to go ahead and share that with me because you know who his lender is.
You?
It will probably be me.
Well, I'm not opposed to it. We'll take care of that after this.
That is funny. So, but going back to, like I said, to the gap funding,
Hmm.
and just that's the thing. Just listening to people talk about how they want to make money off their money, because your money sitting in the bank is not doing anything.
Cash is trash, in my opinion, especially right now, because the inflation, your inflation rate is higher than your interest rate at the bank. So you are actually, if you have $1,000 in the bank, if you put it in there for 6 months, it is worth less when you pull it out in 6 months than it was when you put it in there. You can actually purchase, its purchase power is lower than what it was when you put it in there. So you are losing money.
That's the reason why I haven't been so in a big hurry about the Bowie property,
Hmm.
because when I pay that off, that money's supposed to go back into my Edward D. Jones.
Yeah.
That's not making me any money.
Right.
So I keep leveraging.
Hmm.
I keep leveraging that house in Bowie out. It's actually made me more money being vacant and sitting there than I mean, I know that's not the correct. That is not correct. If I'm going to do anything, I need to finish it and rent it out
Right.
while it's paid for, and then take the cash,
Right.
and
Well, then because then you have the income, the rental income, and you can still leverage it.
yes,
So now you're double dipping on your profit margin.
yes. So like I said, that was really bad thing.
One of the other things I wanted to mention too, I'm reading this book called The Lifestyle Investor, which is a pretty awesome book. He talks about different strategies for investments and stuff like that. He's talking about life insurance policies, whole life, not term life, but whole life insurance policies, and you can put your money in there, and it almost serves as a bank. You get a lot more interest. It's a lot more secure because life insurance policies have to have the cash on hand to pay out the policies, whereas banks, if something happens with the economy and there's a run on the bank, meaning that everybody goes to the bank at the same time to get their money out because there's a crisis, if there's a run on the bank isn't going to have the money to pay everybody's their money that they had in the bank, because they loan, I forget the term, but they loan like 10% on your money. So for every dollar, and my numbers are off, for every dollar you put in your bank account, they can loan out $10 for every dollar you have in your account. So when you go, if there's a run on the bank and you go to the bank to get your money, they may not have all of it.
Yeah, my mom and I tried that one time.
And that's why we've had bailouts. But insurance companies, and of course everything's, there's exceptions to every rule, but insurance companies have to hold that, they have to have those funds to pay. If everybody died at one time, they have to pay that.
Yeah.
And so they have to have the cash to do that.
Right.
So there are a lot more secure investments. Plus, when you put your money in those, if you have the right account and set up the right way, you can make a higher dividend. You can make a higher percentage return. Plus, you can make dividends. Plus, you can leverage that money without taking it out of that account. So you have that money in there earning that higher interest. You can leverage against it, so you can borrow against it with that money still in the account. So it's still accruing its interest, but you've borrowed against it to go buy a house. So now that money is making you money on this house and making you interest here. So so let's say you have $100,000 in your life insurance.
Okay.
It's accruing your interest and dividends. Now let's say you need to take a loan out. You do a $75,000 loan against your $100,000 in your life insurance. If you set your life insurance up the right way, it doesn't affect it at all. You're still getting that interest on your life insurance money, but now you have the loan against it that you can go buy this house with. Now you're going to make money on this house while you still have that $100,000 in the life insurance making that interest. So you're double dipping on your profit margin on one fund, on one set of funding. That's something I learned in this book.
I think my Edward D. Jones account does the same thing. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't
even started mine yet. That's one of the things I'm investigating right now and wanting to start.
I just know it doesn't make enough money with Edward D. Jones, because when he called me and said, this account made you $10,000 this year. What do you want to do with it? I laughed and I said, apply it towards the loan that I've taken out. Yeah. I'm just like, do I need to just take it all out and just reinvest it? I haven't made that decision yet and everything, but anyway.
Well, I want to say those life insurance policies are on average 7-8%. I can't guarantee that. Obviously, everything is relative to what you do. But
this is a different question. But have you noticed any change in the market?
Yes, I haven't actually done a lot of investigating. I've had my nose down working so much, but it seems like things are starting to loosen up a little bit.
When you say loosen up, like how?
Like there's some more, there's a little more houses. There's some more houses on the market. There's more availability. The quantity of available properties has increased some. And which means the asking prices are starting to normal out a little bit.
I'm seeing prices starting to come down, just not a whole lot.
Well, the supply is higher, so the demand is lower, so the prices are going to come down a little more.
I got a call from a builder, and they're needing to push some properties. And I'm like, you need to push some properties, and asking if I knew any realtors out there to push properties. And I'm like, yeah, me.
Well, think about this too. When you're building and the builders have this problem, you have this problem as a rehab. When I rehab, all of us rehabbers have that problem too. Let's say you just bought a house and you bought it at these higher numbers. The inflation has made all of your parts higher too. All of your materials are higher. So let's say you bought the house. Now you've got all these materials. You're rebuilding, you're rehabbing this house. It's set to go on the market in a month. These prices keep dropping. Now you're sitting there with a house that you thought was going to bring 280, and you're going to be lucky to get 240.
I don't see that happening.
I don't see it dropping that much.
I don't see it happening that
not that quick.
Yeah, instead of making a $50,000 profit, I see you making a $40,000 profit instead of a $50,000.
But when you're counting, and that's one of the things, when you're counting on a certain amount with all of this. You never count your chickens till they hatch in real estate, until it is at the closing table. And even when it's at the closing table, I've lost deals sitting at the closing table. You don't ever count that deal as done until that money is in your bank account.
The word is funded.
Correct.
Until you hear the word funded,
it's not a done deal.
It is not a done deal. I've explained this to all my, to agents, to the students. I'm like, let me explain something. You can be at that table and sometimes even when you hear the word funded, I've seen people get in their car and the escrow officer chase them and say, oh, we have a hiccup.
Yeah, something happened.
Something happened. Like you went and put stuff on your credit card that you weren't supposed to right before you went to the closing table.
Yep.
If you think that...
I told you not to buy that car until after you close on this house.
Yes. So the magic word is funded, and wait 8 hours. And like you said, make sure it's in your bank account. That's when you know it's really funded.
Once it hits your account, that's it.
So it's that magic word. But I'm sitting here going, everybody wants to blame, prices may be steadying or coming down on Ukraine.
Hmm.
I think it's not just that. I think you have property taxes coming up.
Yep.
The IRS taxes.
Yeah.
Did you save and pay that?
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot more to it.
Yeah.
And then the feds keep talking about how they're going to raise rates, which I think they have.
They're by the end of this
Yeah,
month, it's supposed to
listen,
be
oh, that's right.
considerably higher.
So and I think buyers, I think the consumers,
Yeah.
I think they're waiting to see what happens. And this is what I want to tell people: don't wait, just do. Because if you can buy if you can buy a house today at 3.8% interest,
That part I definitely agree with.
it's a heck of a lot better than waiting to see if it's going to go to 4.1.
Yeah,
And
because we
there's
already know it's not going to come down. If it moves, it's only going to go up.
uh,
So you better hurry up and get in while the getting's good.
and then I understand, and then if you're concerned about the monthly payment, I
Right.
know everybody's not concerned about the monthly payment. Some people just can't find anything out there,
Mhm.
and they're waiting. And I am seeing so many projects where it looks like my 6-year-old granddaughter went and painted them and everything. And
Yeah.
I get it, but people paint is paint.
Yeah.
And if the floor plan, it's like I told a friend, if the floor plan fits,
Yeah.
so let's negotiate the deal instead of just turn around and walking away from it. Let's negotiate the
Yeah.
deal,
Let's
and
figure something
because
out.
the you're not going to find the floor plan.
Right.
And that's what's important right now. What is it that you need? You work from home. You need this privacy. There's not one of you. There's 3 of you.
If you have found the property you're looking for, figure out a way to make it work.
Yes.
Talk to them, negotiate. There are tons of creative ways to negotiate deals. The banks tend to want to do more traditional deals and have a little harder time being creative. But if you have a good relationship, again, relationships, if you have a good relationship with your bank, you can usually talk your bank into doing it something a little bit creative sometimes
Right.
on occasion.
Or, like I said, if you need help, call one of us and we'll try to help guide, the right direction.
Yeah.
So,
And again, I don't know nearly as much as I wish I did about financing. I've got some friends, Pam included, that are just so full of knowledge that it's kind of actually embarrassing that I don't know more with so many friends that do.
but you know what? Until here, until I got back into, because I was out of the game for about 18 months.
Mhm.
It's amazing what 18 months can do and what changes take place in 18 months. The thing about it is you need to go to other meetings, and I'm not talking about just real estate meetings. So let me see, today's Wednesday. I think it's next Monday. I am going to a crowdfund event just to see what they're about, because one thing that I would like to start doing is syndicating, money, putting money together
Mhm.
to show people how you can make that.
I think
Which,
that'd be great.
well, I think that's where the trend is going,
Mhm.
is syndication,
Yeah.
is what,
Crowdsourcing and
yes.
syndication.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I would be interested in that. I mean,
So if you're when you're interested in something and you're thinking about taking them, because I don't know a lot about syndication, crowdfunding, but it is a project, it's something I'm going to learn about and get knowledge about and get good at trying to put together, because a lot of our deals that we're getting beat out on is because of syndications,
hmm,
especially when you're going to the courthouse
yeah,
trying to buy properties.
yeah.
You cannot outbid Blackstone.
They've got a revolving credit line with individ with syndication. I can't talk.
And one thing I haven't been able to get a hold of him and talk about this, but Curtis Roddy runs the Roddy Foreclosure,
Yeah.
and I think he knows a little bit about syndications. And
Yeah.
I just think we need to have him to come talk at our group about, because I know this is kind of crazy, but I was kind of excited about the foreclosure list because I got the list that it went up. Well, it went from 8 pages to 11 pages, but I got to noticing on there that there's more foreclosures that are coming. And Mark, the appointment that Mark went on yesterday, the guy wanted to do a short sale, and
Mhm.
I said, Mark, get in there. I go, because instead of doing a short sale, we can go in there, take over the payments.
Yeah.
Try to doing a subject to.
Yeah, to where he isn't losing that kind of
Yeah.
money.
So my goal for the next 4 months is learning more about financing, and I'm going to have to with the projects that are coming on,
Mhm.
because I I don't have $1 million in cash, and I wished I
Well, you
did.
don't.
No, I don't.
That's news to
Not
me.
yet. Not yet. So, but
I'll give you a year or two.
that's going to be my goal, is to come up with a
You're gonna be
million
my lender in a year or two.
somewhere. So, but anyway, but back to the gap funding. You can make money on gap funding if you know what you're doing. It may start out small, but hey, if you're an individual out there and you want to pay off credit cards,
Yeah.
so that's one thing I did for one of the people. They're like, "Well, I have a $3,000 credit card debt." I'm like, "Once it's done, I paid the credit card off," and it was so much help.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: they're calling back saying, "Well, when can we do something again?" And I'm like,
I need to have your friends. Good gosh.
You have friends, you just don't ask."
That's probably true.
you,
Yeah, I've got a few.
you know what? So this is what's so important, is talking about friends.
Mhm.
I don't really know what my nephew does. He works for David Weekly. I know he started out as a builder, but I know he's getting promoted because he's going to training sites, and everything. You you ask him, and he's so busy, he doesn't, explain things. But I think that's part of the problem, is people will help you, but you need to ask,
Yeah.
and you need to explain what you do.
Let people know what you do, share what you do, and find out what their scenarios are so you can know how they can help you or you can help them.
So across the street from me, they're building 2 brand new homes, and it's not stick and brick. It is metal. I mean, they're building like they call them
Barndominium.
barndominiums, and
Mhm.
it's all. And I went and asked the guy, and he said, "Well," he goes, "the outside foundation is actually," he said, "it's cheaper to start up with the metal than with all the wood." And they're doing the wood framing for the inside today. So when we leave, I'm going to go back and start filming. So remind me to post this on Facebook, would
Okay.
you? Okay.
See, that's something I'm looking at. Is I'm looking at money. I'm looking at trying to get the money for the mobile home parks that I was talking about. But I've also got an idea about. I own 10 acres where
You do?
where I live,
How
out
come you're
between
not
Decatur
building
and out.
houses?
That's exactly what I'm saying. I own 10 acres where I live, and on the bottom side of my 10 acres, I want to build some duplexes.
Mm.
Now I'm out in the boonies. I mean, I am out in the sticks. So we can't really do a mobile home or an RV park because there's no attraction, there's no draw at all. And there's a lot of curvy roads.
People want privacy.
If it's an RV park, there's still no privacy.
Oh, but it's a privacy away from town.
Right. And I can appreciate that. And that's something, and that's one of the things I want to look at and maybe talk with you about. But I also, down at the bottom of the land, I want to create a place where I have 3 duplexes, but I want them to be, check this out. I had someone mention this to me the other day. Barn dominium duplexes. Why
Wow.
not? Why not do a fully open concept barn dominium duplex
Okay.
and just run a wall down the middle? And
So I think someone's beating you to your concept.
probably.
So what you need to do, instead of going back 287, go back towards Azle, go
Hmm.
down 730, there is a guy, and he has on the sign warehouses, small
I know what you're
warehouses.
talking about.
But he's putting because there's plumbing in there,
Hmm.
and it's I think
I
it's
know where you're talking about.
I think it's going to be a 1-bedroom type thing, but it is like a warehouse
Yeah.
also. So that's funny that you brought that up, because I'm like, but why isn't he just turning those into duplex or something? Because people have no place to live today. I
Mhm.
mean,
Especially affordable housing.
yes, and that
Everybody's building $300,000 to $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 houses, and affordable housing for middle class and lower class is not. It's it's going away.
and I think that's really where people don't know to go ask people for private funding, because I mean, everybody that we've talked about, our contractors, uh, people that are losing their rentals at Boyd because you have people coming in and buying giant land.
Yep.
Those I have had several people calling me saying, "Hey Pam, do you have anything available, for
Hmm.
rent?" And I'm sitting here going, "Boy, I wish I had the money, because would not mind, owner financing some of those properties for those
That's right.
people, because that is cash coming in a month, and I don't think people look at it that way.
Right.
What, like you said, it's all about the mindset. And not only are you having monthly cash coming in, but you're also helping a family get into a house.
Yeah. There's three things about seller financing houses. One, you're still making what they call mailbox money, residual income, passive income. You're helping people buy a house that could probably not otherwise buy one.
That is correct.
And three, you oh my gosh, I just went blank.
Pride of ownership.
Well, yeah, but anyway, I'll think of it in a second. Wow, that's really kind of horrible. I do that every now and then and just totally space out. Welcome to my life. But
Well, to me, you're taking people off the streets.
right.
And I shouldn't say
Oh, I remember. It's passive income. You're helping people get a house, and you don't have tenants and toilets. You don't have the rental responsibilities. In a lot of cases, you have to give a little bit of a warranty, but you don't have to go in there every time the
toilet doesn't work.
toilet doesn't work or the dishwasher doesn't work. That's
The
on
HVAC
the
goes
buyer.
out.
Now, if it's a big ticket item, a lot of times you work things in up to a certain amount or whatever, but you generally don't have the overhead of a rental property. Now, with that being said, you also don't keep your equity.
Right.
So
But
that's
you
a
know
plus
what?
and minus.
But that's
But you're
okay.
helping people.
But not only that, and I understand buying that, you don't someone can go in and cash out your equity,
Hmm.
but then also frees up money for me to go help the
That's
next
right.
person.
That's right.
So
I have a seller finance in Seagoville, and I'm making good money on it. I love the deal. I haven't gotten a phone call. I mean, it's been out of sight, out of mind. I just get a check every month. But if he were to go
and
refinance,
who talked you into doing that?
that would be you. You were a big part of my first seller finance deal. But if he does happen to go refi, I get 25,000 just like that, and I turn around and put it in another deal. Get
And
another,
you can loan it to me for me to
or
rehab my
loan it
next.
to me to get.
But you're right. I mean,
Yeah,
this is what people don't realize, and understand. And I just think, the more we can educate the public, the better off we're all going to be. So one of our niches right now, and this just happened by accident, is reverse mortgages
hmm,
and helping seniors having, whether they want to move out of that big house, but yet they're not ready to retire, but they'd like to have extra income coming in.
right.
So that's where we're approaching them about, well, if we could do owner financing, or if you have a mortgage, we can work something out where you can have that monthly income coming in, and everything. So those are the two big niches that we're hitting right now. So hopefully in June my team and I are putting together, we're going to have a seminar for seniors to
That's awesome.
talk to them. And if you want to be invited, you're more
Yeah,
than welcome.
absolutely.
And talk to seniors to see how we can help them, even if it's, well, let us explain owner financing. And
Mhm.
if you don't want to do it through us, because all we're going to do is turn to someone else, but making sure that all the paperwork is there, helping them to get creative and helping them so they can have extra mailbox money.
And the selling point to, if you're the buyer, it's owner financing. If you're the seller, it's seller financing, or I guess it's seller financing either way. The benefits to that are that the seller doesn't have to pay their capital gains tax all at one time. They can spread out the capital gains tax. They are also making residual income or passive income on that property, and they no longer have the rental,
Yes.
the tenants and toilets. They don't have any overhead. They don't have any liability on that property anymore, because all they own at that point is a note, not a property.
That is so important. And I think a lot of people do not understand.
They are the bank.
Yes, they don't understand that. They don't understand the note process.
Right.
And here in Texas, what a lot of people don't understand is because we're a non-judicial state, which means non-judicial, we do not have to go before a judge to get permission to foreclose on a house.
Right.
We can just go file the lien at the courthouse. You can actually foreclose in 21 days in Texas.
I thought there was some legal action you had to take to do it.
You have to hire a now my mind went blank.
Good, it's not just
a
me.
trustee, but
Okay.
when you're drawing up the documents, you have listed that trustee in your documents and everything. So you have to file with him, but legally, you can foreclose on a house in Texas in 21 days.
I've never had. Well, I had to give a warning letter. I had to give a warning letter for an RV that we were renting, but that is the only thing I've had even remotely close to having to evict.
Well, people don't realize how there's a difference between an eviction and a foreclosure.
Well,
but
yeah,
still,
yeah.
But people don't realize how fast you can be foreclosed on in Texas.
Mhm.
And when they receive that letter, it puts a fire
it's time to move.
Underneath their butt and to do something. And on the other hand, what people don't realize is, okay, well, put your house up on the market and you can sell it, and you may get equity, you may not, but at least you don't have a foreclosure,
Right.
On your credit, which people don't understand. When you have a foreclosure on your credit, it can do some harm.
Oh, yeah.
I know people say, well, I had it, it was 2 years ago, but it affects your credit. Instead of being able to get a 3.8, interest, now your interest rate is at 5.5.
Mhm.
Yeah, you can get it, but
you're going to be paying.
You're going to be paying
at a
other.
$200,000-$300,000 purchase price. You're going to be paying hundreds of dollars more a month.
So, anyway, well, Michael,
I think we still have like quite a bit of time too.
No, I think we usually talk about. Do we have quite a bit of time?
Oh, well, I guess we don't. Okay.
Cool. I mean, we covered our topic, talking about gap money. Hopefully, we didn't confuse everybody by being. What did you think, CJ?
I think it's good. Maybe just recap exactly how gap money works.
Okay, so gap money can work in 2 different ways. You want to explain your way?
Go ahead.
So gap money can work in 2 different ways. First, it is when you're trying to get a loan, and to the pieces of the puzzle. Let me get my notes back out here. What I had there, you have the rehabber, the gap, and the hard money. And so when you're taking out a loan, and most people want you to have what we call skin in the game. They want you to have some financial interest in that property, so they know that you are going to do your performance on the property. So sometimes by the time you put down a down payment and you need extra money for that rehab, then you can go ask, then you're looking for another private or some type of financing for someone to loan you money to continue that project or that lien. And most gap funders become in the second position of the loan. You need to make sure that if you are in second position and you decide to do that, number one, have a relationship with that person. Don't just go out and loan money to anybody because they're asking for gap money. You need to know the relationship. You need to have a relationship with that person. You need to go check out that person's work, see that they are actually doing what they say they are going to do. Even make a phone call to the first lien holder. Some lien holders don't like second positions because they don't want to have that conversation in case something does go wrong. But it's always important to have a conversation with the first lien holder and let them know that yes, you are going to become, the second lien holder of that note and everything, and do your due diligence. I encourage people to go by the projects, especially when it's rehab, and check everything out. So that is, what gap money is. Basically, you are the second lien holder on a mortgage. Got it?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
about it.
All right. If you have any questions, please contact me. My phone number, 817-881-1583.
And if you have any other questions that she can answer pretty much anything I can, but if you want to contact me, it's Michael at amlhomesllc.com, 940-255-7227. You can find me at amlhomesllc.com, and that's pretty much any social media as well.
You can find me all over Facebook.
Yep.
I am all over Facebook. Just look up Pam Cleary, and you should be able to find me, especially on my personal page. Do not hesitate to call either one of us, and we hope everybody enjoys the rest of their Wednesday. Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.